Hey, what's up guys? This is Anthony from Anthony's Customs, and for this review, we are looking at the McFarlane Toys Spawn line Ninja Spawn, which some of you may not be familiar with. I'm guessing most of you aren't intimately familiar with this character design. It's my understanding that there are various versions of Spawn, but none of them anywhere near as iconic as the classic Spawn, though they all have like unique, cool looks. And this is one of them. This is Ninja Spawn, as the box art says. And I'm not sure how many people are going to feel about this, because it does some things incredibly well. And then it has some of the most glaring flaws I've seen on an action figure in a long time. Well, not that long of a time, because I reviewed Jazzwares not that long ago and they did the same thing. But it has some really great stuff to look at too, though. So let's go ahead and get it off the stand and take a closer look. This guy stands just about 7 and let's say 5/8 inches, which makes him pretty close to, we'll just call it 19 centimeters. I think he's a little bit higher than that, a little bit taller than that. That'll do. Alright, now before we get into the aesthetic, we have to do two things. The first thing is question of the day. My question for you guys today is, which version of Spawn is your favorite? It can be any of the classic iterations, like just regular Spawn, Spawn with a boot, Spawn with no boot, Soul Calibur Spawn, anything you like. It could be Mandarin Spawn, it could be Raven Spawn, anything that says the word Spawn in the name, you can pick that. Let me know which one you prefer. For me, I do prefer, as goofy as the boot is, it is an iconic look now. It's not the original look, but it's iconic. I like classic Spawn with the big cape and the chains and the red boot. That's what I like. Let's go ahead and talk about the action figure. But first, another question of the day. We're just really going crazy with questions today. What type of reviews do you guys watch most on my channel? Is it just one-offs of things you find interesting? Do you watch everything? Do you only watch certain brands? Do you only watch certain characters? How do you decide which videos to watch? I'm very curious how that works for the audience. Okay, so let's talk about the aesthetic. First of all, it doesn't look anything like that. And I'm not familiar with Ninja Spawn outside, a quick Google search, and it just comes up with different looks and things. But this is the look that they put on the package, which is not what's in the box. Like, that's not the figure at all. So that is very irksome to me. Not just because of my OCD, and it's not the same thing that we bought, but because I think this looks way better than this. Way better. You guys can let me know how you feel about that, but they are different, and this is very cool. So let's go ahead and talk about this. Now, I mentioned that it does some things really well. Some of those things include the paint that is on there. For instance, the paint on the face, it's super clean, both for the kanji, for the eyes, the wraps around the face. You can see the paint job for the stars and kunai down here, very, very clean. The belt is nice. The kanji down here is also very clean. Where there is paint, they did a good job. But, and here's the big but. Let's check. For DC, we have to check from now on, not only for DC, but for all McFarlane figures, how's the butt? This guy gets a 7 out of 10 for the cake. That's it. We're going to do a cake rating from now on for all the McFarlane figures, because they put a lot of cheek and a lot of crack in their line. I don't know why. Okay, so the paint that's there is nice, but the paint that's not there is not there at all. If you'll notice, all around here, it's just solid brown plastic. And there are clearly things which should be painted. Lots of little rivets, stitches, studs, different materials, metal plates, leather. It's all there, but it's not painted. We get a slight bit of paint over here where the spikes are, none over here where the plates are, and then even on his hand, we get no paint job for that plate with the spikes on it. And that's continued down here on his feet, where we have zero paint for his sandals. The plates on top, the spikes, the straps, none of it. Same thing for the boots over here, the straps, the studs, all of it's missing paint. And it makes the figure look ridiculously cheap. Like, for a figure that has a decent amount of molded coloring, and then some paint also, and it looks good at first glance, it looks awful up close because of that lack of paint. That's gnarly. It's ridiculous to me how messed up that is, that there's no paint on so many details. Like, I get that it's a new mold and everything, but that doesn't matter, because it is what it is, and it's not painted. You have to throw some paint on there. You can't leave solid black hands. Speaking of which, the hands are an entirely different color from the rest of the body. Same thing with the feet. The hands and feet, I'll zoom in again so you can see, the body's got this slightly bluish, grayish tint to the black. The hands are just glossy, crappy black looking. They look so cheap, and then same thing for the feet. Different color for the feet, in the rest of the body. So on one hand, this thing looks great at first glance. It's well composed and there's lots of detail, but then as soon as you look at it with any amount of discernment, it looks bad. Like, not good at all bad. So I don't know how to rate this one. I guess I do. 5 out of 10. I can't give it a full rate. It gets a half a rating simply because it's got half a paint job. I don't care how good half the paint job is if the other half is missing. There's just no way for me to not count that. I have to. You can choose to ignore it. Like I say all the time, guys, in my reviews, I'm giving you the information. You do what you want with it. If you don't mind that it's missing paint because it looks good enough without it, that's fine. Go for it. Knock yourself out. But I can't, as a reviewer, not mention that it's missing almost all the paint. Like, almost all of it. It's nuts. That's so weird. Okay, so yeah, 5 out of 10 for the aesthetic. It would have been good. The sculpt is pretty cool overall, but the paint job is just ruining it entirely. So much sculpted detail gone to waste. Not even a wash to bring it to life. That is such a shame. So many nice textures. Like, all of the cloth pieces are textured. So many nice little details in there. All gone to waste. Such a shame. Now, as far as accessories go, no alternate hands. We do just get the gripping trigger finger hands. We get 2 Ninjato swords. You could call them katana, but they're straight, so they wouldn't be. They're pretty nicely done. I don't love that they're not, like, the silver's not painted. It's molded in that crappy Marvel Legends silver that exists. I would much rather those be painted in nice metallic silver. Same thing for the other swords, which look nothing like ninja swords, but we do get these crazy looking swords, also in the weird crappy plastic. And then we do get this little sword holder thingy that goes on his back, which I like that it's removable and it does hold the swords in that crazy way that it's supposed to hold them. So that's fine. I don't mind that. It doesn't hold them as well as I'd like, but they do stay on, so that's okay. And then lastly, we get the display stand that says Spawn on it. Nothing crazy here. Definitely missing some accessories based on the box art, because I'll bring that up again. He's got that there, he's got that there, he's got that there. He's got a belt here. He's got different things that we don't have. These two guys are pretty similar. But that's it. So yeah, pretty strange, I think, to include those accessories, but it's not bad. I'll give it a 7 out of 10 for accessories. Now, he does look fairly lanky. Is the articulation going to be good? It should be. He's fairly lanky. Let's start, if I can speak, with the head and neck. The head and neck are all one piece on this guy, which works. That's generally an okay thing. I know some people hate it. I don't, because it's perfectly acceptable. Especially in a case like this where it's well hidden by the wrap. That big ball peg in the neck allows him to do most of the work. He can't really look up, but that's mostly because of the collar, which also isn't painted. But he can look down. He can obviously rotate side to side. He can lean. It's obviously not as full of range as having the neck separated from the head, but it does work just fine, so I'm okay with that. For what it is, it's well executed. We do get this guy, which doesn't rotate, but you can pop it out and put it how you want it, and that works pretty well, so I like that. It's definitely better to be able to pose that than to not. So if you want to do like a jumping pose where he's coming down on somebody, you get that going up in the air. If you want to just have it dangling, you can just peg it in and have it dangle. You can do whatever you want, so I like that a whole bunch. It's a soft piece. It's not super rigid if you put it like straight up, but you know, what are they gonna do? I think that is more than acceptable. That is fine, so I'm very pleased with that. So the head and neck are okay. These guys are going to get in the way of the shoulder some, but not a ton, I think. We have that ball peg in the shoulder that lets the whole arm move around. You get that cap that just fills in the gap. And it does have a little bit of range. Not too much, but some. Going out to the side, we get slightly better than horizontal, so that is good. For rotation, it is unencumbered by everything except for the shoulder pad, which is understandable, so that's okay. Bicep swivel is fine. Double jointed elbow. Not bad. It's not the best looking elbow. They're getting better though. They're doing a much better job of not having those giant gaps, and it has good range, so that is okay. Wrists are on big ball hinges, so there's no problem there. All the range you could want, you could get, so that is good. For the torso, let's see what we have on this upper. It should be, yeah, it's a double ball peg, or a barbell, as some of you like to say. It doesn't really want to go back that far, but it does lean back. Some of that is coming out of the lower part. That doesn't go too far forward, but it does go forward some, so I'll give them some credit there. That's okay. Going to the side works pretty well. I like that, and you get your rotation. They're really close to having this down. Should we just... we will. Alright, so here's their problem. We'll diagnose it right away. Super easy to diagnose these problems. I shouldn't be doing this for free. That shouldn't be in the front. That should be right in the center, right in the middle. He'll get better range. He can't lean forward like this. It doesn't work. So yeah, the socket should be in the center. See how far forward it is? Next problem. Peg should be a little bit longer. You can lift up that socket, make the peg a little bit longer, put it a little bit lower in here, hollow this out more. This opening right here should be bigger so that can lean farther. And also the balls, they can stay that size, but you want to make the peg a little bit smaller so that it can lean farther over. Or make the balls bigger. You need a higher ratio for ball to peg, and that would give them much better range. This is not bad though, it's just not good. It's designed by somebody who hasn't reworked articulation a million different ways. It would work better if you did those things, but it's not bad as is. Now the lower torso is on a ball peg also. It doesn't really lean that far forward. Look at let's put his hips straight. He's leaning just a little bit at the waist. Let's lean him back. Does lean quite a bit back at that lower ball peg. Go side to side a little bit down there as well. It's basically a supplemental joint to work with the upper. And it's fine, it rotates also. Yeah, so this guy's a pretty good example of what to do, just not quite there. Now, the belt you would think is a separate floating piece. It's not. It is a separate piece from the diaper, but they glued it together, and they really didn't need to do that. All that did was stiffen up the diaper. That affects the legs, and it keeps this from rotating. You want this to be able to rotate to allow the legs to have extra range. So they made it a separate piece. Just don't glue it. Don't tab them in, don't glue it. Let the diaper float, let this piece float. You'll be better off. Also, I just realized half the kunai are not even painted. Those would not be... I mean, that doesn't look like it's a pouch. It looks like it's the tip, so you could call it a pouch, I guess. But anyway, back to this. Let's see how the hips work even though the diaper is connected to the belt. Going out to the side, they do work. They're very loose though. We have this type of joint. Not the best type, but pretty good range, almost. The splits, I'd like to note, this is all stretched out from the packaging. They have them posed in the package and it makes the hip flare out. Just hit that with a hairdryer. You should be okay. Generally, they shouldn't do that because it causes a problem for somebody who doesn't know what to do to fix that, but it's okay. They did carve away some of the leg. You see how there's like that ridge? This is all one piece right here, but there's a distinct ridge in the thigh, in the quad. That's a little bit strange. Let's see how well they go forward. They go out to the side because of this, but they do raise up, up at an angle. So yeah, he can't really kick all that well. Because this isn't free floating. If it was free floating, this would be so much better. They don't go back all that far. They're very loose. These hips are not good. The thigh swivel basically non-existent. Yeah, the hips don't work well. Does not compute. Very bad arrangement for this whole region right here. Double jointed knee works nicely. No issues there. A little bit loose, I guess. Ankles. It's like a ball hinge, but it's a cheaper version of it where it's just two halves with this half is like a T shape, so it's the ankle part and then a peg that's the stem of the T, and then this piece just pegs in over that. So it's a two-part ball hinge. It works. It's still heavily ratcheted and fairly loose, but it works functionally. It's a lot uglier than a straight-up ball hinge because it's sculpted. So you see like ankle shape on it, which is super weird. They do some really strange things at this company. I don't know why. I don't know why they do that. Neither do they. Alright, so we also have the toe hinge, which is a middle of the foot hinge again. It's very far back on the foot. Just don't do it. Just don't do it. It's in the wrong place. It looks bad. And it's too loose to hold the figure. So, okay, so articulation on this guy, it started off promising. The top half was decent. The bottom half was pretty bad and questionable. So I'll give the articulation on this guy a final rating of 6 out of 10. The hips are not good. The ankles are not good. And I'll go 7. I'll go 7. 7's fair enough. The torso's alright and the arms are good. Shoulders are okay. Neck's okay. Yeah. So 7 out of 10. It's not anywhere near as good as it should be, especially since they haven't engineered it properly. Like, it's so close. The torso's got all the right parts. They're just in the wrong order, in the wrong places. Ankle. It's like a ball hinge, but not. You know, there is a toe hinge, but it's in the wrong place. Things like that. Like, they're spending all the money already. They're doing all the work. It's just not in the right way. So I'll give it a 7. but it definitely needs to be reworked. Okay, so now it's time for the final verdict on this guy. Very deceptive figure. It looks great. It looks like it's going to pose really well, and it'll pose well enough, and it looks okay enough, but if you get too close, it looks really, really rough. Very problematic to have so much paint missing. Go with a simpler design if you're not going to paint it. I would say make it something that you can actually produce at the price point, or just raise the price point. The Spawn line has prices all over the place. She Spawn was like $40 or something like that. I don't know, just charge more and add more paint, I guess. Like, these are not the kind of figures that kids are buying off the shelves when they're shopping with their parents. These are adult collectibles through and through. So just make it $30 and paint it up, and this would be a gorgeous release, and the articulation wouldn't even matter. But with the paint being the way it is and the articulation having half of it being not good, I'm going to give it a final rating of only 7 out of 10. So much potential. I'll give it a 10 out of 10 on potential, but 7 out of 10 overall. The cake rating doesn't give it enough of a boost, so we're just going to leave it at that. So let me know how you guys feel about this kind of release. It's such a conundrum with so much good going on with so much bad. Very, very strange. Alright guys, thanks for watching. If you want to leave a comment, please do. If you want to give the video a thumbs up, that would be great. If you want to give it a thumbs down, that would be also great. I don't care what you click, it's fine. And if you haven't subscribed, you might want to. I have new videos almost every single day, and thousands already on the channel, so make sure you come back for all of that. In the meantime, keep collecting.